Welcome to the 1871 podcast, and our special guest for this episode is former Reading midfielder and model, John Hodges. So, John, thank you for joining us and welcome to the 1871 podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. It always seems weird when people call me a model, mate. You know what I mean?
Oh, there you go. We've seen the pictures on Instagram. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah. So, not the pants ones, hopefully.
Yeah, well, it sound like you're living the dream. You know, professional footballer, playing in the Premier League, won the title with Brentford as well, didn't you? And then set up your own fashion business, done some modelling, and we'll come on to your time at Reading. But I mentioned a few of us have seen some of the pictures on Instagram. So my first question is about that. Which was more difficult? Which was more difficult, training for Reading or maintaining the six pack?
Well, you know what? The amount of running you do when you're a footballer, you can eat what you want. So unless I'm putting the sort of miles in on the treadmills in the gym now, I've kind of got to watch what I'm eating. You know what I mean? Footballers are lucky. We can eat pastel Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We can eat Burger King. Whatever you want to do, you can eat it because you're doing the Ks or whatever, or the miles on the pitch. So it was a lot easier then to keep the six pack. And I had mates like Stacky and that in the gym. So that was fun. But now I'm a bit older as well, so it's a little bit more difficult. I've got to look after myself a little bit more. I've got to get in the gym. I've got to watch what I eat. But the drinking's all still there. So,
fair enough. Look, just to put it out there, if you're if the modelling agency that you work with needs a balding middle-aged man with a dad bod, I'm available.
You know what?
£10 an hour, I'll do it. No worries.
Listen, I'll have a backup. Everyone's included now. Do you know what I mean? It's all inclusive. I'm losing a lot of clients to people like you now. Do you know?
All shapes and sizes, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah.
6'7". Does that help?
Yeah, you ain't 6'7", are you?
Yeah.
No
one realises because I'm sitting down. So
there's a big and tall shop on Oxford Street. They love you.
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
Shame I couldn't head the ball, or I would have been brilliant. But never mind.
I couldn't head the ball either, mate. I was trying to use my chest, you know what I mean?
So, John, we know a lot about the football side of things with Reading, and obviously we're going to talk about Arsenal and stuff like that as well. But tell us what it is that you're doing now, because you clearly are doing some modelling and and I kind of read that you'd set up a men's fashion business. So tell us what it is that you're doing now and what that all looks like.
Yeah, so I'm a full-time model, or whatever you want to call it. So I do my modelling. I've got my sort of agents. I've got my main mother agent, they call it, in London, and he looks after me on everything. And I've got model agencies in like every big city in the world. And they all kind of talk together and pimp you out a little bit and get your job. So I've been doing that now for nearly 11 years, 12 years. And since I'm in the industry and, I like clothes and all the rest of it. So slowly but surely, I've, picked up a lot of, skills and whatever. And I want to make my own clothes. So I sat down with a model friend of mine, a really good friend, Dejan, and we just said, listen, let's just, let's do our own thing. We've got loads of contacts in this industry. We can use them and try and get them for free or for cheap or for a drink. And that was it. So we was going to do it before COVID, actually, but then COVID come, and it sort of, we was like, I feel like I should have still done it, because everyone, the sales online went nuts, didn't they? You know what I mean? People were on their sofas buying everything. So we didn't do it, but now we're looking to release 2024 spring summer. So I'm doing that at the moment, but it's kind of hard to do it because I'm missing a lot of deadlines because I'm flying here and I'm flying there for work. So it's hard. It's more difficult than I thought it would be, finding fabrics, and especially trying to do it in England or London. It's really expensive. So we're just finding our feet. We're learning a lot about fabrics and all the rest of it. So it's gonna be good. I know it's gonna be good. It's just getting there, and I think we will. I'm excited about it.
And when you say Dejan Lovren, yeah?
No. So it's a model friend of mine called Dejan Obradovic.
Okay.
it was like when I first done my first ever like Armani fashion walk was like 11 years ago, and I went to obviously to Milan and in Italy, and there's about 50 boy models all looking unbelievable, and I'm like, oh, God, what am I doing here? I don't really belong here. And then all of a sudden I heard a London voice, and I was like, oh, where's he? And that was it.
Right, okay.
So we've been friends ever since. And, that was it, so kind of thing. So he looked after me, and now we're good friends, and we're going on this little venture together.
Well, I took a guess because I actually spoke to Dejan a few years ago when he was doing exactly the same. He was setting up
He is, yeah,
a clothing business. So I kind of put two and two together and got fired. But never mind.
I'll have a look at his stuff. I'll have to have a little Google and see what he's got.
Yeah, because I was going to say to you, oh, your clients are Luka Modric and that, but that's the other Dejan. But there you go.
Yeah.
You never know. You could sell some to Steve Sidwell and Dave Kitson, maybe.
Well, they're going to wear it for free for me, then, boys. When they're on their TV.
That's the way to do it, isn't it?
I don't know. I just ain't asked them yet. But when they're on the telly and doing the old sports reviews and whatever.
Yeah. Well, we got a few of the obviously the other ex-Reading contacts as guests. So if you need any help, I'm sure you don't, but we'll help. But look, let's talk about the football. So want to start with before your time at Reading, you started out at Arsenal with Steve Sidwell, Graham Stack, who you mentioned. You're a part, for people who don't know, you're a part of Arsenal's FA Youth Cup winning team in 2000. And actually, the three of you all went out to Belgium together, played on loan out there, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
And you played for Arsenal in the League Cup, and then you were at Stoke, and then you came to Reading. And we did a quiz, Johnny, didn't we? And John was one of the answers in the quiz, because we said, can you name everyone that scored in the 106 season? So you're on. So you were in.
I was there, John. Was it 3-1? Wasn't it against?
3-1. Yeah, Stoke. Was it Stoke City? Yeah, Stoke City. Yeah,
there you go. I saw you score for Reading. There you
go. Everyone scores against their old club, didn't they? What happens?
And you, and John, you played in the Premier League for Reading, and you scored. I think I'm right in saying you scored for Reading against Liverpool in the League Cup. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you about that time, because obviously you were basically at Reading during the two most successful seasons in the club's history.
Yeah.
What was that like? Having been at Arsenal and you knew Steve Sidwell, you knew Graham Stack. How did that move to Reading come about? First of all,
you know what? It was a load of different things why I ended up at Reading. First of all, when I was at Stoke, I was having a great time. I wasn't planning on leaving. I was doing really well. I was getting a lot of, plaudits or whatever, and I was happy to stay there and see how we would go on. But then Tony Pulis got sacked, and Pulis was my man. Like, I love Pulis to bits. He let me come on and sort of it brought my game on a bit. It made me a bit more defensive than I probably would have been, because he played me right back. But he's also let me, Tony Pulis is a really, defensive-minded guy, but he still let me do what I wanted to do. He let me get away with murder, but I done well for him. And he's like, as long as you do it like that, you're good to go. So Tony Pulis got sacked, and then they brought another guy in, a Dutch guy. And to be fair, I loved him as well. He was good as gold. But then my contract was coming to a renewal, and whilst they was renewing it, I don't want to sound like a greedy bastard, but we went in there saying we want to be the highest paid player at the club, blah blah blah. And they was like, yeah, cool, we'll do that, no problems. But then they threw a clause in. They wanted a big clause, like for a release clause. So we was like, we don't really want that. And then it went back and forth for ages. And whilst this was happening, I'm going to say it anyway, Parge called me up when he was at West Ham, and Parge said, listen, meet me in the hotel, we'll live in chit chat, and we'll get you to West Ham when your contract finishes. So I was like, all right, cool. Won't sign him a contract. I'm going to West Ham. So now I'm thinking that. And then the Dutch manager at Stoke, I forget his name. He was a blinder, but he was a big geezer. And then once what they said to me is, if you don't sign your contract, you ain't playing. So they stuck me on the bench for a couple of months. But I stayed strong. But every time I went into training in the morning, I used to try and find a back way in, because he'd be sitting waiting at the front, and he used to call me Cat Weasel. Do you remember Cat Weasel?
Yeah.
I had long hair back then. I had long
That's
hair,
right.
blonde hair. She used to call me Cat Weasel. And he used to give me a clump. He used to give me an headlock. I'd be like, Gaffer, no. Every morning he'd sign your contract. And in the end, I stayed strong. Well, I didn't stay. I didn't sign my contract. And then it got to January, and all of a sudden, Parge went quiet. West Ham went quiet. So I was like, oh God. And then I had 3 or 4 options of like clubs that were probably looking like they was going to go to the Prem. But then Reading came in. And obviously I was like, Stacks is there, City's there, Harp's there, my friends, and back down to London. It sounded great to me. So in hindsight, I probably should have joined a team where you're right back, he's the captain, he's doing amazing, you ain't losing a game, you're playing amazing. In hindsight, I probably should have went to a team like that, but I did, and I was told I had to be patient for the first till the end of the season, which I was but then once I was in, I was not playing. It was quite disheartening. It's hard to be around when you're a footballer and not playing. It's really difficult, and I found that really difficult. And I probably got myself into trouble a few times, and whether Kopp will like that or not, or whether he liked me or not, I was a bit too dangerous for Kopp. Like when I first went there as a right back, he was going to play me. I come from Arsenal, and when Arsenal was like, the last ball you play is in the channel. If you do play a channel ball at Arsenal, you get pulled off. So I grew up playing football. Whereas we went to Reading, and he said, listen, your first ball's in the channel, your second ball's to your winger, your last ball's into the midfielder. And if that midfielder loses it, it's my fault. So, I wasn't to change the way I played. So I was more of a risk player. So I don't really know who signed me, because if you'd have watched me at Stoke, you would have realised what kind of a player I was, So I don't want to talk bad about people. Say, it was great, and they took a chance on me, and it didn't work. And I'd done some silly things whilst I was there that probably didn't help me, drinking and whatever. So it's one of them things. But being in and around it and being involved with a team that won the league that convincingly was amazing, that done so well in the first season at the Premiership was great. I loved the boys to bits. I loved all the coaching staff and Cops, but it just wasn't meant to be for me there.
And story about you talked about them not having sort of seen your style of play. Actually, they didn't even see Marcus Hahnemann play at all when they signed him. They went to see him play in a game. He wasn't playing, and they saw the way he kicked the ball in the warming up the goalkeeper, and signed him.
Enough.
So
yeah.
And then
but that worked wonders for us, didn't it? I mean, Hahnemann went to Doyley in the channels, that worked wonders.
And obviously, you mentioned Steve Sidwell. He was a fantastic player for Reading, but yourself and Graham Stack as well. Graham Stack's really interesting because obviously he didn't really get much of a look in, but he, when we've had sort of players on from that team, they've every now and again Graham Stack gets a mention. They say he was a big voice.
He's a character. Stacks is a character, mate. You put him in any room in the world, any room with any people, and Stacks will be the loudest one in there, and people will listen to him as well. So Stacks is a big character and a lovely guy.
Yeah, and in that situation for him and you, and you're not getting a look in, how do you stay motivated? Do you go, do you know what, I'm going to prove him wrong, I'm going to force my way in, or what do you do to keep your spirits up and
that's why it is. I think that's why it is. I think you go sort of week to week, and you believe in your ability so much. Well, I did anyway, and I feel like Reading was the beginning of the end for me of in my opinion, which should have been a great career, but it wasn't, and I stayed there too long. Maybe I should have had someone pull me out or whatever and tell me, listen, because I was there for 2.5, 3 years, and once you're out of sight, you're out of mind. I come out of there, and there was only a few clubs interested, and I'd had my injuries as well at Reading, which didn't help. But I believed in my ability so much, and I just thought, right, cool. Like, I'm gonna still play the way I'm playing, but Cops will see it, or they'll see it, they'll realise they need me. And I didn't change the way I played, and you just go week to week, and you think, I'm gonna get in this weekend or next weekend. And then I did have some long-term injuries there as well, so that never really helped.
Well, we had our co-host has got a similar story to you at Leeds before he came to Reading. He couldn't get in because of Gary Speed and Tony Dorigo playing on the left side. So he came to Reading, but obviously you mentioned Graham Murty. What a great player he was. And,
oh man, what a pro, what a guy. Lovely human.
And sometimes you just, you never wish for someone to get an injury, but sometimes you just need a bit of luck. And that, and that team actually, you had 4 players up front, like Kevin Doyle, Lita, and Dave Kitson, and it was like one of them was always injured, and then someone else. But you never had that. You just kind of.
I can't. Yeah, you kind of just wanted to be thrown in and then and then express yourself on a pitch. Because sometimes if you're judged in training alone, it's a little bit like. And you know what? Reserve team football as well was really difficult to play once you'd been playing for 2 or 3 seasons, and then you sort of go back to reserve team football. I think you go through the emotions. I don't think you think you were at the time, but when I look back at it, and it just happened with pros over the years all the time. You just go through the motions of reserve team football, and slowly but surely you get used to that. And then when you step up again, or even when I stepped out and went to, it was a big shock again to start, getting onto that sort of intensity. Because reserve team football is, it's half intensity really.
Yeah, Johnny, do you want to come in now?
Yeah, John, like when at Reading there, for the club, it was obviously one of our greatest seasons. But at the end of that first season, with the celebrations and that, did it kind of feel kind of a bit hollow for you, not having a role?
Yeah, absolutely. I say it all the time to my mates and that are football fans. I'm like, if you're involved in a team that wins something, other than maybe internationally, right? If your country wins something, you're involved, fantastic. If you're involved in a team that wins something, but you play a bit part or you're on the bench the whole time, I'm telling you, if you're not telling me you the same, you're a liar, because you don't enjoy it. You don't. Yeah. You don't. You just feel like you're a bystander, and you're not really. You weren't involved in it. You didn't help. You just. I've got my medal still, and I don't know where it is. If I'm honest with you, I put it away somewhere. I'm just like, it don't. Other than I've got great memories here, but I wasn't involved in that really.
And like when you touched on it then, when you had a chance to play, did you kind of feel like you knew you're only kind of I think that game I was talking about, literally, I think they put a few of the squad players in, didn't they? When you had a game, did you feel like, I'm not really going to get a run here, it's just I'm filling in?
Yeah. You do have that feeling, especially even if you play, like you said, if you play, but then like they've dropped, taken out 5 or 6 of the big boys, or what you want to call big boys, you still feel like it's all right, cool, this is a bit of a non-important game, it's a bit of a reserve game, it's a bit of a whereas if you just go in and just one player's come out and you with the boys still and you're playing well, it feels a little bit different, like you're getting a chance. But yeah, it's just it's an hard one. And then I think you just need to get out as soon as possible. But I didn't do that. I stayed there too long, and I love being around the boys and around it, but I wish I would have got out sooner.
And that summer between championship win, did you think for the first season of the Premier League, I've come from Arsenal, I've got a chance here now, because maybe the football's going to be different, style of play possibly?
Yeah, that was it. I don't know how much damage I'd actually done between January and then with the coaching staff or whatever, because some certain things happen. I'll tell you one story in a minute, but you think you get right, cool, I'll be ready for the summer, and then you pre-season starts, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, right, this is it, I'm going to be involved now. But slowly but surely it sort of goes back to the normal ways, and then you get really disheartened again.
Yeah.
And then I think I got injured quite early on, which lasted a few months, and that was it. Once your team's up and running in the Prem and you started really well, that was it. It was like, oh God, I'm back to being, just on the sidelines again.
Yeah. And does that impact on your mental health when you were playing? That
absolutely. Injuries... I think you ignore it. You ignore it somehow. You find a way to ignore it. Because if you think about it too much, it kills you. But you find a way of ignoring it. I remember, I'm not sure, my memory's a bit hazy, but I do remember at one stage, whilst I was injured, I didn't even want to go to the games. I didn't want, and they must have knew because the only reason I would go to the game is if you had to do the rounds before and go and see everyone in the boxes.
Yeah.
But if you hit the crossbar, you weren't doing that. And I could hit the crossbar with my eyes shut when I was back in the day. So I don't play golf. I want to play golf when I was injured. I didn't want to watch the games. It hurt too much.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I probably thought I was getting away with it, but they probably knew. So that all of a sudden, cops and that was probably thinking, who's this kid? Who is this kid? Do you know what I mean? I remember I think January I joined, and I think we had it was an international break maybe. So we went away. We went to Sweden. We went to Sweden or Gothenburg to play a few matches. So we was over there, and we played one game. And after the game, you know, whatever, the guy said, you can have a meal or drink. You know, enjoy yourself, lads. Cool. So I think I played about 10, 15 minutes in that game towards the end. Anyway, we went out boozing, as you do, and I just went a bit stupid. I think I rolled back into the hotel about 6, 7 a.m. And on the sign was, whoever played less than 60 minutes is running at 8:30 or 9 o'clock on the track. Get on the track, 9 o'clock. So I'm going, hang on a minute, I'm in trouble here. So I remember getting lapped on that track. So cops must be thinking, who is this fella? Who is this fella with the sign? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I didn't help myself in certain things. And then once things maybe stick, who knows? And, you know, like I said, the style of play probably didn't suit either.
And did Steve ever have it out with you? Would he that sort of say, right, come on, get over the...
No, that was the thing. That's why I love Pulis so much, because Pulis told me exactly what he wanted, how he felt, when he wanted it. He didn't care. I knew exactly what Pulis thought about me. Yeah. With cops, it wasn't so much. I went into the office a few times asking, you got to be patient. You got to be patient. It was kind of one of them ones, you can go on loan or you can be patient. And that was kind of it, really, where, Pulis would tell you, John, do this, do that, boom. So you had all the information, whereas don't get the information, it's a little bit hard to take, but you still believe in yourself and your ability, so you sort of stick around.
Yeah.
When John, when you look back at your time at Reading specifically, do you kind of think to yourself, some of the sort of things you've talked about there, do you think I should have done it differently, or is it kind of one of those things at the time where you think about it later? Do you know what I mean?
I think you think about it later. I did believe in myself so much. I'll tell you one thing. I always think of this, sticks in my head as well. Like I should have left. In hindsight, as an adult now, after my first training session, I should have left. Right. Wow. I turned up late. Not late, but I got there late because I was signing and doing my medical and that. So we got into the training pitch, and they was finishing training with a 5-a-side or whatever. And so I joined in, and it was like winning goal or something. So without dropping names, I'd done a trick that set up the final goal that Thierry Henry taught me, right? We won the game, everyone buzzing, jumped about. I got pulled to the side after and says, don't ever do that in a game. Don't ever do that in a game. And I'm like, hang on a minute. What am I here for? Like, why have I been signed here? If you don't, that's not, that was me. That was, if you'd have watched me, that's what I sort of was. So in hindsight, like adult John is now like, you should have just, once you heard that, mate, you should have packed your bags and found another club or found your way out.
Well, you did seem bizarre then why they signed you. Sorry, Mark.
No, go on.
I don't know.
As I say, it seemed bizarre why they would sign you then. If that's the type of player, if they've done the scouting, which Reading at that time, Mark, wasn't it? They were relentlessly good for the scouting in there.
Yeah.
And you're that kind of player. You're not going to do something different than what they've already seen, isn't it?
No, I was a bit of a, I'm not saying flair player, but I was a bit more of a risky player, but more of a defender who'd like to play out and try and, maybe dribble the ball out a bit or play some interesting things. And they weren't looking for that. So I really don't know who signed me or why I was signed, but I should have, my agent should have, or whatever, we should have got out earlier.
Johnny,
but I don't want to talk bad about, like, I love them guys. What they done was unbelievable. The way he played Cops was what they done was fantastic. Cops. What position was we in the Premiership in the first season? Was 10th. I mean, unbelievable, right? So, he can tell me that I'm wrong, and I'm saying, "Oh, you might be," but
we'll get you both on here.
Cops wins this.
Johnny, I'm listening to John talk. And I don't know if you're thinking the same, but I wonder how Dylan Kerr would have fitted into that team. It sounds like these two would have been mates, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. Good combination.
Do I know him now?
Yeah, so put it this way, if you ever meet him, you'll know him. That's for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So nobody forgets him once you've met him, but
Utopia in Reading. That's his claim to fame.
Yeah, yeah, he was well known in there as well. But you obviously did move on from Reading, and actually you played for Brentford in League Two, and you were part of their title season. Did you kind of was that like in a way a bit of redemption? Did you think, oh, it's at least I've been part of something now, or did you still have some regrets at that point?
Yeah, no, I think after leaving Reading, I did. I think, look at it now, I probably lost a lot of love for the game. And then going down to I only went to Brentford to keep fit because it was next to my house, to keep training, to keep fit, because it looked like I was going to Sheff U, and they put a bid in, or not a bid, but they offered a contract, and then I think last second it went wrong, and they signed someone else in the end, and it was like panic stations because the season was starting. So I went to Brentford and to keep fit and train. And then the guys, they were like, John, please, like, sign for us. I was like, all right, cool, let me just do a season here to get back playing. And when I'd done the season there, I mean, it was great. To win the league again it was fantastic. But it was the same sort of thing. Like, I wanted to play football. That league was a little bit, we just wanted to, be safe and, win the league and play a bit safe. And it probably wasn't for me either. I mean, I had a great time. I played some, some decent stuff there. But after, I was kind of lost the love for football then.
Well, my assessment is it got even worse after that because you played for Aldershot and Wickham. But there you go. No story.
That's game over then.
That's the wins that get out, isn't it?
When you look back on your career, including Arsenal and Reading, what was the high point for you, and what was the low point, do you think, John?
I mean, my high points were all up until I signed for Reading, really. As much as, great memories, but my high points were, Arsenal, FA Youth Cup, played at Stoke. I had two and a half amazing seasons at Stoke. I actually loved playing there. Absolutely loved it. And then, when you make a move, you got to be lucky. When you get to a new team or new management and whatever, you got to be lucky. Or if you're not, get yourself out of there. And I didn't. So yeah, other than that, I mean, growing up, our youth team was unbelievable. I will never ever forget them days, or training with the first team and people like Thierry and Keown and Ray Parlour and Pires and Vieira. Like, unbelievable.
Yeah.
What was Arsene Wenger like for you? Did you have much involvement with him on the day-to-day when you're?
Yeah, Wenger was he had that thing where he would, that authority, or that aura about him, where he spoke and everyone listened, except for Wiltord a couple of times. But he had that aura. But he just walk around. He had that aura, and everyone was on it, and he was quite laid back and chilled as well. Like, I loved him. I had a lot of interactions with Wenger. He really liked me at one stage. And then, I mean, I still had like a year or two left of my contract. So in hindsight, I still think, well, I should have stayed and hung about a bit and tried. But breaking into that team is going to be like near on impossible.
You've had, John, in your career, you've had a little bit of experience, shall we say, of looking on at the teams achieving great things, haven't you? Obviously, that side at Arsenal then, and and then you think you go to Reading and kind of different scenario, of course, but you're watching on there as well. Can you sort of, looking back, did you kind of take anything from your football career from that experience, including the lows as you saw it, into what you did after football at all, or did you just think, like, I'm going to put all this behind me, do something completely different now?
You know what? I was super lucky, really. I think what I've learned from football has really helped in this industry. Everything I've learned from football, discipline, and big groups and talking people and travel and everything, it's kind of it's helped a lot in this industry. But I mean, I was quite lucky. I had a bad injury at Wickham. I'd done my Achilles, and I was out for the whole season. It looked like I was, the doctor was saying, listen, it's not looking good. You might as well retire. I think I had about 6 months left of my contract. And my sister was like, listen, let's go to all the modern agencies in London. And I was like, no, leave me alone. So she forced me. She took me to all these modern agencies in London. And they all said, no. And then the last one I went into was Next London, who's now my agent. And they was like, yeah, cool. You look all right. But come back when you can be full time. So I was like, all right, cool. So I forgot all about it. And then eventually retired about 6 months later. And then I think I had 4 or 5 days where I was like crying my eyes out, what am I going to do? And then I went to Westfield Shopping Centre and I was walking about there, and my agent was in there scouting. And he was like, John, what's happening? Like, you're going to come in and take some pictures? So I said, yeah, all right, cool. So I went in and took some pictures. And that was it. They signed me the next day. So I was signed up the next day. And the first few months was quite slow. And then they sent me to New York. I went to New York and some geezer gave me a cover of a magazine. And that was it. Like, once that cover came out, it was just nuts. I didn't stop working. So I was everywhere. It was cool.
Sounds like such a terrible life that you've had, John.
Yeah,
What a lucky fucker.
it's worked out all right, isn't it? From leaving Reading to
lucky bastard. My third career is going to be a bad one, surely.
So what's next? What's next for you, John? Then what is it? Is it a line of clothing that you want to do? What's the plan?
Yeah, so we're gonna start sort of. Well, I'm starting kind of hard really, but I'm starting small. The selection's going to be quite small, but it's going to consist of I'm doing like what you would call affordable luxury, maybe for men, like modern suiting, really soft suiting, really casual suiting. And we're creating outfits. So we're going to create 5 or 6 outfits, and that can all be kind of like, you know, mixed and matched. There's something that you want to keep in your wardrobe for a long time rather than this fast fashion lark. So that's the plan. So that once mixing even though it's the same industry, mixing them the two at the moment is really difficult time wise. So I'm just trying to make it all work. And then next spring when we release it, we'll just play it by ear. Hopefully we can get out there, and I can try and get some of you footballers to wear it on the telly and whatnot, and all my model friends to wear it, and then we'll see where it goes from there, man.
Well,
we can wear it for you on the podcast.
Johnny, I'll let you come in a sec. Johnny. But I just want to say, John, I'm getting married, so I might come and have a word, see if you can help me out with some outfits.
Easy.
And as I say, 6'7", bald, middle-aged man. If anyone needs someone like that to help out, I don't mind. Like I said, £10 an hour. Just let me know. But I know Johnny wants to come in.
I'll just say, like, if you want to sponsor us on the podcast, you know, we'll wear whatever we want for you, John. You know,
yeah, we'll do that.
Dylan, you might do it standing
just the top half.
Yeah.
But seriously, John, do you still follow football now?
I love it. I can't. I went for a stage of like a year or two of not watching it. I couldn't watch it like after I retired. Even though I must have went through some sort of like weird depression or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Like, because I couldn't watch it, and I was still working and traveling everywhere. But I went for a little stage of like, because it was quite a big jump from this football industry into this, because with the football you're with 30 geezers every day, your best friends every day, amazing. You know, the banter's flying everywhere. And then this is quite lonely. So there's a lot of traveling on your own. You're in the airports, you're on the trains, you turn up, you meet people, new people, maybe 15 of them. You get the shoot done, and then you're finished again, like 5, 6 o'clock, you're done. You're in a hotel, or you're waiting for your plane the next day. So it's quite a lonely life. It took a while to get used to that. But now I love it, like absolutely love it. And yeah, yeah, really, really lucky to be doing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Who I'd say, like, who is your team you follow now, going back to is it Arsenal?
So I mean, I will watch football, you know, every night the football's on the telly, I can watch it. I mean, I still enjoy a little bet now and again, so that helps. But Arsenal's still my team. We've done all right this season. We just fell at the last hurdle, so hopefully we can have a good summer maybe in the transfer market and drive on again. But yeah, football fan again, absolutely.
And what do you? I don't know if you know, with what's happened with Reading this season. What do you make of our decline after that great time when you were there? You know,
it's really sad. You know, coming out of league, I don't know what sort of funds they got there, but to come back up straight away is really difficult. You know, really, really difficult. So hopefully you guys can do it. Or maybe you need a few more players, or need to invest, or whatever money you've got. But you know, it's a sad time for Reading, but I'm sure they'll bounce back.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for that, John. Really, you know, really appreciate you sparing your time. From where are you in the world at the moment, by the way?
I'm just in London. I'm in London for the next 3 or 4 days, and I'm off to New York. So I can't moan.
Right. Sounds like it's worked out all right, John.
Yeah.
So far.
Right. John, well, thanks ever so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time, and best of luck with everything you do.
Thank you so much.
Best of luck, John.
Cheers, Jack.
And just a reminder for the listeners and the YouTube viewers that on Tuesday, thanks to Johnny's efforts, we've got former Reading winger Glenn Little. John, I'm sure you remember him.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
It'll go on for a while.
And we've got a bonus episode coming up. We don't know when, but we will be bringing you a bonus episode when Reading finally announce their new manager. So we don't know when that'll be, but Johnny and I are ready to pounce with an episode with our reaction to that. And we have no idea because there's a new favourite every day at the moment. So we have no idea who it's going to be really. But yeah, thanks, John. Thanks, Johnny. And yeah, best of luck with everything, John.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Take care, mate.